The moment the auctioneer shouted, $5,000, the entire ballroom fell silent. I stood beneath the golden lights, frozen in a borrowed blue dress, while hundreds of strangers stared at me as if I were something that could be bought. I had come to the charity gala to serve coffee and collect donations, not to become the prize of an auction. But somehow, through one humiliating mistake, my name had appeared on the auction board beside the words, "Dinner date, $500 starting bid." And then, from the back of the room, my CEO raised his bidding paddle and offered $5,000 for me. Before I tell you how one terrible misunderstanding changed my life, if you believe kindness can give people a second chance, please like this video, share it with someone who needs hope, leave a comment, and subscribe to Epic Story Hub. Sometimes, the person standing silently in the corner is fighting a battle nobody can see. My name is Maren Vale, and at 27, I had become very good at disappearing. I worked as a junior assistant at a powerful investment company called Westbridge Holdings. My salary was modest, but I was grateful for every paycheck because my mother depended on me. She had spent years raising me alone, working double shifts until her hands became rough and her knees began to ache. After a serious illness left her unable to work, I became the person responsible for our rent, groceries, medicine, and every unexpected bill that seemed to arrive at the worst possible moment. At work, nobody really noticed me. I was the girl who arrived early, stayed late, organized meeting rooms, answered calls, and quietly fixed mistakes other people made. I wore the same 3 office outfits every week and packed homemade lunches in an old container with a cracked lid. I never complained because complaining did not pay bills. Our CEO, Cassian Rook, was the opposite of invisible. He was 36, intimidating, brilliantly successful, and almost impossible to approach. People lowered their voices when he walked through the office. Rumors said he had never smiled during a business meeting. To me, he was simply the man whose signature appeared on the documents that determined whether I kept my job. I had spoken to him only twice. The first time, he had asked for a report. The second time, he had noticed that I was working late and told me to go home. I had assumed he was annoyed with me. I never imagined he had remembered my name. The night of the charity gala began as an ordinary work assignment. Westbridge Holdings sponsored an annual Children's Foundation event, and several employees were asked to help. I volunteered because overtime pay meant another week of medicine for my mother. I borrowed a dress from my neighbor, fixed my hair in the restroom, and spent the first 2 hours carrying trays, checking guest lists, and making sure wealthy donors had everything they wanted. Then everything went wrong. A coordinator rushed into the service hallway looking panicked. Several auction participants had canceled at the last minute. The charity needed additional volunteers to fill empty auction slots, and someone mistakenly assumed I was one of the employees who had agreed to participate in the mystery dinner fundraiser. Before I could explain, my name was announced. I walked onto the stage expecting to correct the mistake. Instead, the auctioneer smiled and introduced me as a dinner companion whose winning bidder would receive an exclusive evening meal while supporting the Children's Foundation. Laughter spread through the ballroom. My face burned. I tried to whisper that there had been a mistake, but the music was already playing and the auctioneer was speaking over me. Someone shouted the opening bid. $500. Another person offered $700. I stood there completely humiliated, gripping the sides of my dress so tightly that my fingers hurt. I wanted to run. I wanted the floor to open beneath me. I wanted my mother to be anywhere but sitting at home, unaware that her daughter was standing on a stage being treated like a prize. Then a voice came from the back of the room. 1,000. I looked up. Cassian Rook was sitting at the main table. His expression was unreadable. Another bidder raised the price. 2,000. Cassian lifted his paddle. 3,000. Another paddle went up. 4,000. Cassian didn't hesitate. 5,000. The auctioneer stared at him for a second before smiling. $5,000. Do I hear 6? Nobody answered. The hammer fell. The room erupted in applause. I couldn't move. Cassian stood, walked toward the stage, and stopped several feet away from me. He looked at my frightened face, then at the auction coordinator, and his expression suddenly hardened. This was a mistake, he said calmly. The room went quiet. He turned to the coordinator and told them that no employee should ever have been placed on an auction platform without consent. He then told me I didn't owe him a dinner, a conversation, or anything else. The $5,000, he explained, was a donation to the Children's Foundation. Then he walked away. I should have felt relieved. Instead, I felt confused. The next morning, rumors spread through the office. Everyone knew. Some people joked about it. Others whispered that I had planned the entire thing to get close to the CEO. One coworker even suggested that I had volunteered because I wanted his attention. I pretended not to hear. But words have a way of staying inside you long after people stop speaking. That afternoon, I received an email from Cassian asking me to come to his office. My stomach tightened. I expected a warning. Instead, he handed me an envelope. Inside was a receipt showing that the $5,000 had been donated in my name. I don't want you thinking I bought you, he said. I stared at him. He continued, explaining that he had noticed something nobody else seemed to have noticed. While everyone was laughing during the auction, I had been trying not to cry. You looked terrified, he said. For some reason, those words broke the wall I had built around myself. I admitted that I was struggling financially. I told him about my mother, the medical bills, the rent, and the constant fear that one unexpected expense could destroy everything. He listened without interrupting. Then he asked why I had never requested assistance from the company's employee support program. I didn't even know such a program existed. That conversation changed the direction of my life. Cassian arranged for me to speak with the company's financial assistance department, but he never gave me special treatment at work. In fact, he became stricter with me, demanding that I stop apologizing every time I made a small mistake. Months passed. My mother slowly recovered enough to walk outside again. The company helped cover part of her treatment through a legitimate employee assistance program, and I began taking evening classes in business administration. But something else was changing. I was changing. I stopped hiding. I started speaking during meetings. I learned to defend my ideas. I stopped believing that being quiet was the same as being humble. And Cassian began trusting me with important projects. Our relationship remained professional, but there were moments when I noticed something different in him. He was not the cold man everyone described. He simply carried his own loneliness like armor. One evening, after a difficult presentation, I found him sitting alone in the nearly empty office. The city lights reflected against the glass behind him. He told me that his father had built Westbridge from nothing but had died believing Cassian would never be good enough to lead it. For the first time, I understood him. He wasn't arrogant. He was afraid. Afraid of failing. Afraid of losing people. Afraid that if he stopped being perfect, nobody would stay. I told him that people didn't need perfection. They needed honesty. He smiled. It was the first time I had ever seen him do it. A year after the auction, Westbridge held another charity gala. This time, I was not serving coffee. I was standing beside the foundation director, helping present the company's largest donation of the year. When the auction began, the coordinator jokingly mentioned the infamous $5,000 incident. The room laughed. I laughed too. Then Cassian stood. He raised his paddle. Everyone expected another dramatic bid. Instead, he walked to the stage and announced that the company was creating a scholarship fund for employees who were struggling financially while caring for family members. He named it the Second Chance Fund. Then he looked at me. I learned that night, he said, that sometimes the person everyone overlooks is the person who deserves to be seen the most. I felt tears fill my eyes. Not because I had been rescued, but because I had finally realized I was never helpless. The auction had not purchased my future. It had accidentally introduced me to someone who reminded me that I had won. Years later, I still remembered that night. The blue dress. The bright lights. The humiliation. The $5,000 bid. But I remembered something else too. Kindness does not always arrive in the form we expect. Sometimes it comes disguised as an embarrassing mistake. Sometimes a stranger sees your pain before you are brave enough to admit it. And sometimes, the moment you think your dignity has been taken away is actually the moment you begin discovering your worth. If this story touched your heart, please don't just watch and scroll away. Like the video, share it with someone who may be struggling silently, and subscribe to Epic Story Hub for more stories about hope, kindness, courage, and second chances. And before the ending, I want you to do one special thing. Comment, "I believe in second chances," if you believe one act of kindness can completely change someone's life. Because Maren's story was never really about being auctioned for $5,000. It was about discovering that her value could never be measured by a number on a bidding board. She had spent years believing she was invisible. But sometimes, the world doesn't need you to become someone else. Sometimes, it simply needs the right person to finally see who you already are. And that night, beneath the golden lights, Maren learned the most important lesson of her life. You are not worth what people are willing to pay for you. You are worth everything you survive, everything you overcome, and every beautiful thing you still have the courage to become.